Hello everybody, it's your boy Hawka, the Counter-Strike Scholar. Apparently my screenshot button is my start record button, but let's get into the Pickem. So, first stage, we did alright for ourselves. I don't know how to get into the first stage. Oh, here we go. So, fours, maybe not, but listen, we had a lot of safe picks. G2 and FaZe, Ents, I was pretty confident in, they made it through. And then some of our awkward picks made it through too. I was saying Fluxo probably 0-3, that worked. Monty and Liquid had to go 2-2, but they did indeed make it through. Let's move on to the Legend stage. We got 6 out of 9 there, not too bad. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I think in this stage, even though a lot of the favorites went 3-0 last time, there are a few teams that are well above everyone else. And I really think you should not pick any of the favorites 3-0 here. I'm starting with Heroic. This team is so safe, so solid. They never lose upsets. They never lose against lower ranked teams. Yes, they have a tough opening game against FaZe, but I actually think they could win that. And there's almost part of me that's tempted to put this team in 3-0, but there's just no reason to. Why would you not just put them in that lower section, get a guaranteed point? They're the best team in group stages. They're the team I am most confident in. Next, we have G2. G2 also looked very solid. m0NESY was incredible in the earlier stage, and JKS was maybe also even better. And he is, in my opinion, the most important piece to show up, because you have the 3-star players, but when JKS is showing up as well, the firepower is fantastic because he's meant to be more of a supportive element on this team. I think it really pushes them over the edge. Again, they have that tough opening matchup against Vitality, but whatever happens, I do have faith in them to bounce back. Next, I think again you go with Ents. I actually think this is a team that are very solid right now. It used to be the Nerd show, but some of the other players stepped up in the Challenger stage, especially Madden. And he's someone who's been very mediocre for this team for the longest time, but I've always thought he has good aim, and so great to see him doing well. And Snappy wasn't dead weight either, so they got some really good wins in the earlier stage. I think for me, they're kind of a no-brainer to put through in your Pickem. Next, I am going to go with FaZe, another pretty obvious one. I think it's nice seeing ropz step up to a level above the rest of the team, right? It feels like they're waiting for a player to step up and be that standout player instead of just having a bunch of stars. And I think ropz is starting to become that. I think he's had some good maps. And then Rain also was a bit up and down, but he had some great maps in there. And I do think at the major, Rain is the sort of player who seems to step up for the biggest events. He's got that experience. He's that sort of major type player. So I do believe in FaZe to make it through. I think they showed a solid ability to beat underdogs in the BO1s. Like that opening win against Monty, for example, that was a very dangerous game. And one that FaZe, I think if they were playing like they did in the RMRs, might have lost. But they looked so much more in control of the game. I think they're not taking any games for granted now. It feels like they're always trying to be proactive, trying to play their own game, rather than just focusing on their opponents and saying, oh, well, maybe we think our opponents are weak. They're not doing that anymore, and I think that's really good. I felt like the issue in the past was that they just try and play standard, safe CS against some of the weaker teams, but I like that they're taking a few more risks now, and they're normally paying off against these weaker teams, so that's great to see. Next, I am going to go with Vitality. I mean, I was hovering there. You know I'm going to go for them. ZywOo, for me, still the best player in the world. They won Rio, although I'm not putting too much stock into Rio because some of the other teams who did poorly, like FaZe at Rio, have instantly bounced back. I think the results of the tournament right before the major are always a bit funky, so I wouldn't take too much into account from that. I think something to watch for is that Apex is doing a pretty good job at activating ZywOo more, flashing him into positions, almost forcing him to play more proactively, which I think is great. And I would also say, listen, the one thing they did have at Rio is a big step up from dupreeh. I don't really believe that's going to continue. I think he's shown over the long term recently he's not been that good. He's not been on that level. But I still think Vitality are more than good enough to make it through. And Spinks also playing really well for this team, which is another very good sign. So these 5 teams are definitely making it through for me, and then I'm going to chuck Na'Vi in as well. And this is why I want all these teams down here. These are 6 teams who I'm actually really confident have a very good chance of making it through. That's already a fantastic chance to get 6 points. Na'Vi were solid at Rio. Simple's slump seems like it is over. Looks like he's back to the level we expect. they've just got too much skill not to find a way. Electronic was good at Rio. I think, Bit and Perfecto are starting to play solidly. And NPL, he's doing okay. And that's all you need when you're on this Na'Vi team. Now, this last slot is very open, in my opinion. Few names that I'm going to list off. I think you could consider 9. I think they are a very solid upset team at this tournament. They play this kind of unique style that caught some teams off guard in the RMRs. So even though you haven't heard of them, I consider them here, but I don't know if I'm going to put them to go through in this section. I think NIP, they really impressed me in the earlier stage. I wasn't expecting them to do so well, but they actually delivered. And the thing about NIP is their riflers are so streaky that I'm never fully sure what to expect. The head trick seems to be slowly improving. It looks like the rolls are starting to make some sense, even if Brolan is kind of taking a bit of a hit to his performance from that. So NIP are definitely in consideration. I think you could consider someone like B&E, because the thing I'm really thinking about here is someone like 9. I'm really scared that they're going to get nervous if they go into that tight 2-2 matchup. Whereas B&E, they're a team that play with no fear. These guys are not going to be scared in a 2-2 matchup. They pack a lot of punch, and even just the way they play is pretty simple, which means even if you go into a tense 2-2 matchup, it's not as easy for the pressure to affect their team because of their play style. They're going to play really simple. It's really easy to just work together and push together and run these simple plays even under pressure. So you could consider them. I think you could consider Liquid. I just don't think I have faith in them after what we saw in the earlier stage. Even the wins they got weren't against impressive teams, and I have that feeling that on any day Liquid could show up really bad, and you can't afford to do that in this stage with so many stacked teams. So I just can't have faith in them personally. And I think you could consider Furia as well. I think Furia are a team who, again, they were looking different at the RMR. I don't think they were playing quite as aggressively, but I still don't know if I personally have faith in Arts in-game leading. And so even though they've got some incredible players, including Queserato, I don't know if they're setting up in the right way for me to be confident picking them. And so for me, out of all these teams, I think I might weirdly lean towards NIP. I didn't pick them in the previous stage, but I just think if you get to a 2-2 matchup and it's NIP against 9 or NIP against B&E, they've got that bit more experience. They did impress me at the previous stage. I was pretty impressed by how much better their team play looked. So I'm actually going with NIP. This is one that I think is very up in the air, though. So if you disagree, I don't blame you. And I'm actually going for 9. 3-0. I'm going for 9. I just have a feeling this team has a real ability about them. They've got a really good map pool for BO1s. Like, they've been getting vertigo in BO1s sometimes, and they're the best team in the world on that map right now, in my opinion. And they also have a decent opening matchup, in my opinion. They could definitely beat Liquid, and I think based on their seeding, they've got a decent chance to actually get some favorable matchups in the future. I think if you're not picking a favorite here, whoever you pick for 3-0 is a long shot. I also wouldn't hate B&E, just because they could maybe win some BO1s. It's not going to be easy to get the 3-0 right if you're not picking a favorite here, but 9 I think is the best chance, just because they do play good CS. It's just a question of whether they can deal with the pressure. And then finally, 0-3. Weirdly, I've seen a lot of people go a lot of different ways with this one, but for me, I think I just have to go into the breach, man. Like, this team does not have the tenure. This team has not played at any big events, really. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it again. I know they have a reasonable opening matchup against Apex, but I still have Apex as pretty decent favorites in that one. I think Apex showed enough. Yeah, man, listen, I would love to believe in the UK, but I just personally can't. I actually think there's a couple other teams you could consider here. Fnatic, I'm really uncertain about. I think this team looks pretty shaky recently. I don't think you can put them in 0-3, probably, because they are likely to grind out at least 1 or 2 wins. And then, I've seen some people put Liquid. Listen, I kind of don't hate it, but I think they'll probably get 1 or 2 wins against some of the weaker teams here, some of the less experienced teams. And then I think you could maybe consider Gamer Legion, but the thing I also think is that these teams at least have made it through the challenger stage and have been able to warm up and get a bit more comfortable. Into the Breach don't have any of that. And if they start cold, I could see them quickly spiraling down. Maybe if they win the opening BO1, things could change. And so I really think that opening BO1 is a big deal here. But for me, these are my picks. Let's lock those in. Still on the road to that diamond coin. Good luck. Have fun, everybody. I seriously want to say the main thing to consider here is these 6 teams feel super safe to me. I think those guys are a cut above everyone else. So please, in my opinion, put those 6 teams through. Don't put one of those in your 3-0. And I think you'll be good to make it through this stage. Thank you for watching. Excited for the Legends stage. Let's get it, boys.